What's up YouTube? Welcome back to the channel. In this video I'm going to be speaking about Mars and Venus in Synastry and whether these two planets are interacting in a way that complements each other or that just clashes. So Mars and Venus in Synastry, these two planets is connection and the way they're aspecting each other in a synastry chart is responsible for those sparks flying between two people, but it can also be responsible for that feeling of burnout between the two planets' energies. And when it comes to those two energies from both Mars and Venus, this is what Mars and Venus both represent. So Mars is the planet of action. This is the planet of drive and passion, and it's a planet all about desire, and it shows how we go after what we want and what we want. And on the other hand, when it comes to Venus, this is the planet of love, beauty, relationships, and harmony. It's gonna have to do with more so things like how we receive and give affection, and even what we desire within romance, and basically how we connect with other people emotionally and even physically. And overall, when looking at the dynamics between Mars as well as Venus, when looking at them together and how they're interacting with each other, it's going to give a deeper insight into the attraction, the chemistry between two people, along with the overall dynamic between two people's relationship. And so the aspect between Mars and Venus is going to show whether the Mars and Venus are interacting in a way that's going to lead to the connection being one that feels like Mars and Venus are complementing each other, or they are just clashing, leading to that feeling of burning out, as opposed to, if it is complementing each other, that feeling of sparks flying. So when it comes to having Mars and Venus in a conjunction, having a conjunction between Mars and Venus can really contribute to that feeling of a magnetic connection between two people. It can feel like a never-ending honeymoon phase between two people, where there is a lot of attraction as well as a lot of those sparks flying, especially when it comes to the physical attraction. But with this conjunction between Mars and Venus, it would be necessary to have a balance between those emotions being expressed. Because of course a conjunction between Mars and Venus is one of those most very intense kind of aspects, especially when it comes to romantic and physical chemistry between two people. When it comes to having a conjunction between Mars and Venus, the Mars person over here has a very assertive and even very passionate approach to things, and even the way that they are coming across to the Venus person, which the Venus person finds very attractive in the Mars person. And the Mars person here is drawn to the Venus person's more affectionate side, and their more charming side is also something that captivates the Mars person. So the Mars person and the Venus person are drawn to each other in almost like magnets. There's a magnetic attraction with the conjunction here. And also with having this conjunction between Mars and Venus, there tends to be this mutual kind of desire that they're both expressing and feeling towards each other. And they both can feel this aspect can actually bring out the best in both of them. And for that reason, having a conjunction between Mars and Venus is definitely going to be a complementing energy between the Mars and the Venus. And then another aspect that you can get between Mars and Venus that is complementary when it comes to these two energies that both these planets bring to each other is when you have the more harmonious aspects like the trine or the sextile between Mars and Venus. The reason why is because with the trine or a sextile between Mars and Venus, this can also bring in a lot of understanding between the two of them, but also between the Mars person and the Venus person. With these aspects, they're not only attracted to each other, they also have that understanding, being a sense of being able to understand each other on a more so being able to understand each other's love languages and the way in which they are expressing or needing to receive love. Because with these aspects, the harmonious, because compromise and communication can come a lot easier between the Mars person and the Venus person. And with the harmonious aspects between Mars and Venus, these do also tend to contribute to long-term relationships between two people, because they can be great aspects, especially in a long-term relationship. And with the harmonious aspects between Mars and Venus, they definitely complement each other, because you do have Mars bringing in action as well as passion, and Venus bringing in what feels like more affection and tenderness into a relationship. And they're able to have that energy from the Mars side and that warmth from the Venus side really complement each other in a way that also balances each other out. And when having these aspects between Mars and Venus, it can actually also lead to having what feels like a smooth sailing kind of relationship. And between the Mars person and the Venus person, with this aspect, things can tend to flow and flow quite naturally, in a way that does feel like when it comes to meeting each other's needs, it can feel like it's happening effortlessly. Like the needs are being met without too much effort, but also when it comes to their chemistry between the two of them, it also feels exciting and still also going to feel like it is also one that's coming with this feeling of nurturing in a connection between the two of them, with this harmonious aspect between Mars and Venus. So they definitely complement each other when it comes to having either a trine or a sextile between Mars and Venus. So those are the harmonious aspects between Mars and Venus, as well as the intense magnetic attraction between Mars and Venus with the conjunction. But with a square, this is a more challenging aspect between Mars and Venus. And when it comes to having a square between Mars and Venus, this can look like the potential for some tension between the Mars person and the Venus person. And that's because with the square, they can also feel like there's blockages, or there is a sense of there being clashes in the way that two people express their love as well as their desire towards each other. It's possible here that Mars feels frustrated by the Venus energy when it comes to the Venus's way of expressing themselves, and their more soft and even more affectionate side is received in a way that can actually clash with the Mars person, especially when it comes to things like the Venus person expressing their need for affection from the Mars person. And the Venus person here can also have a hard time receiving the Mars person. It can feel like the Mars person is too aggressive or is too direct, and both their energies can actually clash with each other when it comes to a square showing up between Mars and Venus. But in the positive, having this aspect between the two of them can also teach them a lot of new ways of being able to relate to each other. For instance, the Mars person can learn a lot more tenderness from the Venus person, while the Venus person also learns a lot more assertiveness from the Mars person. And they both learn how to balance it within their relationship. However, even with the square between Mars and Venus, they're still going to have that fiery, passionate kind of a relationship coming through in their relationship. And even with both of these energies existing within this connection that can feel challenging at times, it doesn't have to be toxic, because both the Venus person and the Mars person get the opportunity to learn a lot here, and also get the opportunity to be able to grow closer within this relationship with this aspect of a square between the Mars and the Venus. And between the Mars person and the Venus person, they can use that tension constructively, leading to them being able to grow closer. And also, they may also learn things like compromise, as well as their differences, and how to be able to find a balance between being able to compromise in their relationship with each other, given their differences. And it's possible that with the square between Mars and Venus, it does bring tension or even challenges between the two of them, especially in the area of romance, as well as when it comes to their wants and needs around romance. But it's still a very intense connection with the square here, especially around the area of romance or affection, and even things like their attraction, their physical attraction. But it is still a very intense connection to share with somebody, to have a square between Mars and Venus. Although between the Mars person and the Venus person's energy over here, they are going to be clashing with the square. And then when it comes to an opposition between Mars and Venus over here, this aspect can be one that does feel like there's some clashes between Mars and Venus. And that's because with the opposition, you have both attraction as well as the tension or the challenges existing at the same time within a connection between two people and between Mars and Venus's energies. And even though it can be a challenging aspect between both the Mars person and the Venus person, it's still a very intriguing one. Oppositions are especially all about finding balance between two opposite forces or energies. And when it comes to having a opposition between Mars and Venus, this is when a dynamic that feels like a push and pull can also begin to exist. And within their relationship, you can find that the Mars person is seeking or craving passion and intensity, while on the other hand, the Venus person may be more so craving this feeling of harmony and even affection, and it can be in a different way to what the Mars person is craving. So essentially, between the Mars person and the Venus person, it's like they're pulling each other in two different directions, and they can be experiencing this all the time within their relationship with each other. Can actually be something that can be exciting at times, but it can also be frustrating and even exhausting. And a lot of times with the opposition between Mars and Venus, initially there can be this feeling of opposites attract that actually attracts them to each other. And between the Mars person and the Venus person, there is that feeling of intrigue, and there is often this deep attraction between the two of them. But the challenging part is when they need to be able to find a way to meet each other in the middle, and also be able to complement each other's needs. Because with the opposition, this can also be a clash between Mars and Venus, in that one person may be wanting more closeness, one person may be wanting more space. And this can lead to that feeling of a tug and war between the Mars person and the Venus person, that they need to be able to harmonize between the two of them within their relationship. And the thing with this opposition between Mars and Venus is that there is that magnetic kind of feeling that's kind of pulling them together. It's like two magnets being drawn to each other, especially initially. And it is that feeling of opposites attract between the two of them, but finding a way to understand how to meet each other is also going to be something that is part of making this opposition work, in spite of the fact that it's also one of those aspects between Mars and Venus that are most likely an indicator of a clash between Mars and Venus. But overall, when it comes to whether Mars and Venus are going to complement each other or going to clash with each other, it is going to depend on the aspect between Mars and Venus. And whether Mars and Venus are clashing or complementing each other, Mars and Venus are going to bring a lot of excitement and passion between two people. And when it comes to whether it's in a challenging aspect or it's in a more harmonious aspect, that's going to reflect how this energy is going to be worked through between two people. Well, that does it for this video on Mars and Venus in Synastry and how Mars and Venus can shape your chemistry with somebody in a relationship. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it and that you found it helpful. And if you did, please be sure to give this video a thumbs up. Be sure to subscribe to the channel for more videos. Well, that is where I love and leave you. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next video. Bye guys.